Lieutenant Uhura gets it wrong about Finnegans Wake. In James Blish's Star Trek novel, Spock Must Die, of 1970, the USS Enterprise is driven into a corner by the Klingons, who can intercept any communication with Starfleet Command. Lieutenant Uhura proposes a solution. There's an alternative, Captain, though it's risky. We can translate the clear into Yewish. What's that? I never heard of it. It's a synthetic language James Joyce invented for his last novel over 200 years ago. It contains 40 or 50 other languages, including slang in all of them. Nobody but an Earthman could possibly make sense of it, and there are only a few hundred of them who are fluent in it. There's the risk it may take Starfleet Command some time to run down an expert in it, if they even recognize it for what it is. Being a communication officer, Kirk realized anew, involved a good many fields of knowledge besides subspace radio. Can it handle scientific terms? Indeed it can. You know the elementary particle called the quark? Well, that's a Jewish word. Joyce himself predicted nuclear fission in the novel I mentioned. I can't quote it precisely, but roughly it goes: the abnihilization of the atom explodontonates through Australia with an Ivan Morin Thorumble fragoromboacity, amid which's general uttermost confusion are perceivable moltens escaping with molecules. There's more, but I can't recall it. It's been a long time since I last read the book. That's more than enough, Kirk said hastily. Go ahead, just as long as you're sure you can read the answer. Nobody's ever dead sure of what Yewish means, Uhura said. But I can probably read more of it than the Klingons could. To them, it'll be pure gibberish. And they won't be alone, Kirk thought. Uhura is mistaken on a couple of points. Quark, or quark, is the cry of a duck or night heron, and only later was the word appropriated by theoretical physicist Murray Gell-Mann to refer to a particular group of subatomic particles. I employed the sound quark for several weeks in 1963 before noticing quark in Finnegans Wake, which I had perused from time to time since it appeared in 1939. The allusion to 3 quarks seemed perfect. I needed an excuse for retaining the pronunciation quark, despite the occurrence of mark, bark, mark, and so forth in Finnegans Wake. I found that excuse by supposing that one ingredient of the line, 3 quarks for Mr. Mark, was a cry of 3 quarts for Mr. heard in 8C Eureka's pub. That was in a private letter of 1978. 3 quarks for Mr. Mark. Sure he hasn't got much of a bark, and sure any he has, it's all beside the mark. But oh, an eagle almighty wouldn't unbe a sky of a lark to see that old buzzard whooping about for uns, shirt in the dark, and he hunting round for unspeckled trousers around by Palmerston Park. Ho, 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 ho. molty mark. You're the rummest old rooster ever flopped out of Noah's Ark, and you think you're cock of the walk. Fowls up, Twisty's the spry young spark, that'll tread her and wed her and bed her and red her, without ever winking the tail of a feather. And that's how that chap's going to make his money and mark. Overhooved, shrill glees screaming, that song sang sea swans, the winging ones, sea-hawk, seagull, curlew, plover, kestrel and cappel's eye, all the birds of the sea, they trolled out right bold when they smacked the big cuss of trustin' with a soul. This is a coincidence, of course, the word quark, and of little interest. Coincidences mean nothing. There really is no coincidence in this book. That's the Wake Joyce is talking about here. Said during one of our walks, that's Eugene Jolas, a friend, I might easily have written this story in the traditional manner. Every novelist knows the recipe. It is not very difficult to follow a simple chronological scheme which the critics will understand. But I, after all, am trying to tell the story of this Chapelizod family in a new way. Time and the river and the mountain are the real heroes of my book. Yet the elements are exactly what every novelist might use, man and woman, birth, childhood, night, sleep, marriage, prayer, death. There is nothing paradoxical about this. Only I am trying to build many planes of narrative with a single aesthetic purpose. And did you ever read Lawrence Stern? But Uhura does raise an issue of the use of the creative imagination in problem solving. That is to say, how best must I handle the material I am presented with, while avoiding the pitfalls of a semantic overload engendered by a spontaneous imagination. And so to Uhura's second mistake. The ab-nihilization of the etim by the grisning of the grinder of the grunder of the first lord of Hertford Expolo donates through Parsavalia with an Ivan Morin Thoror Rumble Fragorumbo acity. Now picking up that word parsulia, to pass, to resolve into component parts, and parsavalia, persovili, persovai, which is French for earwig, earwicker. Everything connects, but the copula is everything when it comes to how we choose to pass out a sentence. The Wake does not predict nuclear fission, as Uhura asserts. The splitting or annihilation of the atom by Lord Rutherford occurred in 1910. The first Lord of Hertford, ab nihilo, Latin from nothing, creation from nothing, which is to say, the opposite to the annihilation. We begin at the end and end at the beginning. Etymology. The study of the origin of words. Greek etym, meaning true, and logos, meaning word. Atom and Adam. That's biblical Adam, the first man, are frequently fused in the Wake. The same old game-bold atomic structure, highly charged with electrons, and from atoms to ifs.